Hey, Madeline and Sharon here,
Hey,
and we're gonna dive right into our facts versus myths in kind of breaking down healthy eating.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the first place we want to go is hydration. Over 80% of Americans are walking around dehydrated on a daily basis. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, in this heat that we've been having lately, and just in my day to day activities, I'm on my feet all day, and I can feel it right away. If I don't get enough water into me, I start feeling exhausted, my mood changes, I start getting cranky,
Mm-hmm.
and you just don't want to be around me when I get like
Mm-hmm.
that. Headaches too. I don't know if you've experienced it, but so many people I encounter come to me and they complain of having headaches. The first thing I do is say, how much water are you drinking in a day?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't realize our brains need water to thrive, to function. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
notice if you're sitting at your desk and you're all of a sudden you're getting like foggy, you can't think straight, you can't get through your work day. So often it's because you just need to drink 8 ounces of water and you're going to start to feel more energized.
Yeah. So working up to 4 large glasses a day is ideal. If you're not really drinking much right now, just start out with one big glass in the morning. You can keep it right on your bedstand. That's a good way. If you want to add a splash of juice or a splash of lemon, some fresh fruit to spice it up a little bit, that can really help for those who don't like drinking it. And keeping it chilled, definitely, I think it's a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And number two, I want to talk about reading food labels. This should become a second habit to us where we just go and just flip over whatever package we're looking at and check and see how much, is the first couple ingredients sugar, high fructose corn syrup, those kind of things. If that's like a main ingredient, you might want to stay away from it. Definitely shoot for less than 7 grams of sugar per serving in most things. Unfortunately, a lot of our food is pumped full of all sorts of different kinds of sugars with interesting names, so this can be a little tricky.
Sodium is
Sodium.
another huge one. We have
Mm-hmm.
so many people in our population that are dealing with high blood pressure and many other related illnesses, and we don't realize that sodium's hiding in places. Again, in plain sight, if you're willing to look at the packages again, you might be shocked when you really see how many products have over 300 milligrams of sodium, 400 milligrams of sodium. I was just working with a client actually, and the same brand, an organic brand, had 2 versions of a soup. It had a light in sodium, said clearly on the front, and it had their regular one. And the difference was 500 milligrams of sodium per serving versus 100 milligrams. So again, bringing that awareness and just using your eyes can help make a huge difference.
And looking for fiber. If it's a carbohydrate like rice, cereal, bread, shooting for 3 grams of fiber or more per serving is ideal. And also, the short ingredient list is probably the most important thing. You don't want to see a long list full of names that you don't understand. They look like chemicals. That means it's highly processed foods. Your more natural foods are going to have short ingredient lists.
Absolutely. I always like to tell people 5 ingredient rule. That's ideal, as close to 5
It's ideal.
ingredients as you can get. And then I also say the grandma rule. Picture you have a 90-year-old grandma with you, maybe from another country who English isn't her first language, and if she's with you in the supermarket and she can't understand any of the ingredients on that list, put it back on the shelf. Don't buy it.
Yeah, rules to live by. And then I think getting into really figuring out how to regulate our blood sugar. That's a really good next topic to cover. Eating smaller meals throughout the day can be a good way to do that, although I am a fan as well of intermittent fasting, so eating in a smaller portion of the day can work for you, but even then, I might still break it up into smaller meals and avoid eating sugars in your meals being the main ingredient. Or one of the top ingredients, because again, that's going to make us feel hungry. It's going to eventually lead to more weight gain.
Yeah, and just made me think about things like diet soda. A lot of people, kind of say, well, I'm drinking diet soda, so that's so much healthier than the regular soda because I'm not getting the sugar. But unfortunately, it kind of messes with our brain and our whole digestive process, and it actually often leads us to craving more sugar because that sweetness in our taste buds, it's still making us crave. So be careful with that. And honestly, that's all linked to the amount of toxic foods and chemicals that we're eating. So it's 2018, and it's time that we realize that soda has got to go, whether it's diet or regular. It really shouldn't have any place in our diet.
And I think that kind of brings us to another topic. where what should we be eating? Okay, we know soda isn't great for us, but in addition to water, we really want to have a lot of vegetables, and I always say vegetables before fruits, in our diets. Vegetables is even more important than fruits, and we should have at least half of our plate be really colorful, vibrant. I mean, Sharon always talks about eating the rainbow. This is huge. I tend to eat a lot of greens, and when I think about eat the rainbow, it reminds me, get some reds, get some oranges, get some purples in there. It makes it a little bit easier instead of all the overanalyzing about every calorie and how do I cut out all the carbs. Just like, make sure what I have on my plate looks colorful and it isn't just a brown plate filled with meats and processed grains and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And then thinking about meat. We've been talking quite a bit recently about factory farming, and I think this is a really important issue because we know that meats that are factory farmed really aren't as healthy for us as other meats if we do eat meat.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many really powerful documentaries that you can take a look at. Food Inc. is one of the ones I love recommending. It's been out a while. What the Health is a newer one. It's on Netflix, everybody. It's available to see. And just really to start to become conscious. I think a big part of, what we both believe for ourselves and others is that conscious eating is so critical, and realizing that animals that are raised on factory farms, the way that they're living and the way that they're dying, really is tantamount to torture. So becoming aware that do you want to eat animals that are raised in that environment, and then take in that energy when you're consuming them. Not to mention many of the factory farmed animals, pretty much all of them, are being pumped full of hormones and being pumped full of growth hormones and antibiotics, and it is having an impact on our bodies. We are ingesting that. It's affecting our environment. The runoff that's coming into our watersheds all of those antibiotics and chemicals are infecting and polluting our waters, and thereby contributing to illness in our society. So to make a conscious choice about, are those the kind of meats that you want to eat? Or we are very fortunate, certainly we are here in New York, throughout the country there still are locally owned farms that have organic practices, or have practices where they're not using, or they're limiting the amount of antibiotics that they're giving their animals. They're actually only giving them antibiotics when they're sick, and not just as a regular practice, because again, on the factory farms, animals are exposed to such harsh conditions, they're just pumping them full of antibiotics as a preventive measure, not even if the animal is sick already. So something to be aware of, and realize that developing a relationship with your local butcher, your local fisher people, to be able to have access to meats and fish that are raised in a cleaner environment, your body's going to be able to process that animal food in a much easier way, and you're going to be able to get more of the nutrition out of that food.
So kind of on that note, when you do eat meat, eating lean proteins is really good, making it sure it's baked or broiled, boneless chicken breasts. Even a lot of times we don't think about the plant-based proteins like legumes, lentils, chickpeas. Those can be crafted in a way that can be really tasty when they're done right. And thinking of ways to add at least a couple of plant-based days or plant-based meals into your week, if you don't already, can be really a great way to kind of get into that direction, because it's hard to get a lot of vegetables into our diet. It's hard to get enough vegetables into our diet, so eating plant-based meals can help us do that.
Absolutely. And fun tools to have at home, like rice cookers, pressure cookers. There's an Instapot now. I haven't tried it yet, but I've heard really great things about it, where you can actually prepare beans from dried in 20 minutes, which is absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's so many tools today, and we'll get onto that in the retreat, of course, and in some of our other videos.
Yeah, and I just want to leave off with the most important thing is really focusing on what you're doing right instead of fixating on what you're doing wrong. So many people that are really beautiful and healthy and fit, they're so focused on, I ate too many calories or too many carbs, or I did this, and it's just a really negative mindset. So if we can think about what we're doing right and how we can do more of that, it can really help us have a more positive attitude and spirit. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.